My name is Superman, or Christian, and the title of my speech is The Incredible Life of Steve Jobs. First of all, I would like to tell you why I think that this topic is very important to all of us. So first I would like to ask you a question. Do you know what the similarity between these movies are? Toy Story, Ratatouille, and WALL-E. Exactly. That's one important thing that Steve Jobs did. He developed the Pixar Studios. Do anybody here know what is the largest music retailer in America?
iTunes.
Yeah, exactly, iTunes. Does anybody know what was the first personal computer that was sold on the commercial market? Apple I. Yeah. So not only did Steve Jobs revolutionize the computer industry, he also made huge changes in the music industry and the movie industry. So that's why I think he's very important. What I want to talk to you about is how we started Apple in the mid-70s and a bit about his background, because I think that's very important. How he was fired from his own company in the mid-80s, and how he returned in the mid-90s and got Apple back on its tracks. So he was born in 55, February 24th, and put up for adoption immediately. I'll scoot a bit over his younger years because of, as Dr. Bird says, 9 minutes, is it a long time or a short time? Short time, yeah. But in school he was very smart, but he was kind of a prankster because he was bored in class. And rumor has it that his 4th grade teacher actually had to bribe him to participate in class. In high school he did very well too, and at that time he started to hang out at a company called Hewlett Packard, HP. And here he met a man called Stephen Wozniak, who would later become a very important part of his career. He went off to college in Portland, Oregon, but after 6 months he actually dropped out of college because he was bored and he didn't felt that what he was learning really provided him with the skills and the tools that he wanted to use. But a very important thing is that he didn't stop educating himself after dropping out. He would drop in for 18 months on selected courses. One of these courses were calligraphy. And that was like where he got his passion for design, which would later become a very important trademark for Apple. So what he did was that he, after dropping out, he also traveled to India, and he spent a few years trying to think about what was his place in this world and what he wanted to do. On April 1st in 1965, 76, 76, April 1st, 1976, Steve Jobs and Stephen Wozniak started Apple Computers in Steve Jobs' parents' garage. They didn't have a lot of money, so Steve Jobs had to sell his Volkswagen minibus, and Stephen Wozniak had to sell his precious special scientific calculator. They also met some people who became investors, but I won't have time to go into details with that. But they made the Apple I, and they started becoming successful and making some sales. So that was kind of like the beginning of the Apple company. Now I want to tell you about how it was actually possible for Steve Jobs to get fired from his own company. There are 2 reasons why this could happen. The first is that in the beginning of the 80s, when Apple really started taking off, they needed capital for growth and for product development. So therefore they went public and sold shares. So even though he was still a large shareholder in Apple, he didn't have the majority of the shares. The other thing is that he hired a CEO for the company called John Sculley, because himself he wanted to focus on certain things like product development and strategy. So when IBM and Microsoft became very successful in the mid-80s, Steve Jobs and John Sculley began to blame each other for Apple's failure. And the board of directors sided with John Sculley, forcing Steve Jobs to quit. It was a really brutal goodbye for Steve Jobs. He was called a public failure in the media. And in a commencement speech that he gave in 2005 at Stanford University, he said that he thought about running away from Silicon Valley. The reason he didn't was that he knew that he was doing what he loved, being an entrepreneur and creating great products for people. He later in his life, he said that being fired from Apple was actually the greatest thing that happened to him. And he has a very cool quote on this. He said that the heaviness of success was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. And I thought that was a very cool way of looking at being fired from your own company. So in the mid-80s, he bought a small studio made by George Lucas, and this studio later turned into Pixar Studios, which made WALL-E. Also, he started a new software company, a new computer company focusing on software called Next Computers. Then in the mid-90s, Apple was still kind of struggling in the battle against Microsoft and IBM. And what happened was that Apple became very interested in the software development that the Next company was doing. So they bought Next company, and therefore in '96, Steve Jobs returned to Apple as a key advisor. According to PC World, in '97, he became a CEO of Apple. I won't really have time to go too much into detail with Apple getting back on his feet, but it was the time in the beginning of the 21st century. They made the iTunes Store, the iPod. In '07 they made the iPhone, and last year they released the iPad. Now their market value is actually higher than Microsoft's market value. So he really did turn the company around. A few words on his final years. In the beginning of the 21st century, the doctor told him that he had cancer. And after battling with this for around 10 years, in this year, he resigned as CEO for Apple because he was no longer able to take care of his duties. And 5th October this month, he passed away. So what I told you about was that how he started Apple in the mid-70s, how he was fired from his own company in the mid-80s, and how he returned in the mid-90s and got Apple back on its track. If anybody wants to learn more about Steve Jobs, Sony just bought the rights to make the movie about his life. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Also next Monday there's a book coming out about him, a biography, and it's because of pre-orders, it's already a best-selling item on Amazon.com. So thank you all for listening, and I want to leave you with a quote by Steve Jobs. It's a quote from the commencement speech that he gave at Stanford University in '05, and I think it's very relevant for everybody here. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. The only way to do great work is to do what you love. Thanks for listening.